Hey guys, it's Kim Danger, and today I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk to you about emotional eating because it's something that I think we all deal with to a certain extent, some of us more than others. And I know a lot of you have a real hard time with it because you want to lose weight, you want to get into shape, but you get pulled back into these old destructive habits that cause you to kind of go off the rails. And it tends to happen when you're emotional, and that can mean a number of different things. We'll get into that in a little bit. But how do you know you're an emotional eater? Well, if you do any of these, it's okay. But if you do any of them to the extent where it gets to be really, really destructive and it gets in the way of your own goals and your own progress with your diet and your nutrition, then it becomes a little bit problematic. So first of all, do you eat to reward yourself? Now, I think we all kind of do this to a certain extent. Like, it's okay to go out for a nice dinner if you get a raise or if someone has a birthday party. Those are normal sociological, cultural things that we do, right? We eat because sometimes we're just social creatures. But when it becomes a daily habit, when it becomes just an instinct, something that you do super regularly, then it becomes a problem. Do you eat to comfort yourself? Sometimes food can be our friend. If you're feeling lonely, are you sad? Are you depressed? Do you turn to food? Is it like the moment you walk in the door, you've had a stressful day, you go ahead for the carton of ice cream? And then again, if you have a hard time stopping with these things because they're soothing you, you're using them to self-soothe, then it can be a problem. Other indications, do you feel physically full but still kind of emotionally hungry? Like, have you just recently eaten a meal but have an urge to maybe, dive into a bag of chips because you're stressed? Or maybe it's a habit that you're sitting by the TV or something like that. So these are all signals that you might be an emotional eater to a little bit of an extent. So how do we deal with that? First of all, I think that it is super, super important to recognize that our emotions are here to serve us. I think in our culture, we tend to avoid negative emotions and we turn to food, sometimes alcohol, sometimes drugs, sometimes shopping. There are all sorts of ways to kind of make us feel better without actually dealing with the root issue. And whether it's stress or loneliness or depression or any of those things, we need to allow ourselves to really tune into those emotions and recognize them and live in presence with them. And I know that sounds a little bit corny, but I think of my emotions as just kind of like little radar beams. Like, okay, pay attention. You need to pay attention to this because the world around you is trying to send you a message. So you can look at it that way. Like, these are signals for us to kind of wake up and maybe readjust our path or our mindset a little bit. You can look at those negative emotions as a positive thing. I mean, it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but use your sad to really just be present with it. And what is it trying to tell you? How can you use that feeling to readjust where you are right now? The second thing, don't beat yourself up if you are an emotional eater, because you're just going to perpetuate that cycle. The worse you feel about being an emotional eater, the more likely you are to really, really go overboard. So give yourself a little kindness and a little grace. And you know what? Beating yourself up and telling yourself you're a failure does absolutely no good at all. And in fact, I want you to kind of flip that around. And instead of going down the path of oh my God, I can't do it, I'm so weak-minded, I can't stick to a program, I have no willpower, stop it, okay? Instead, flip that around to using positive affirmations. And I know these are a little bit corny. I always thought of the SNL skit from back in the 80s of Stuart Smalley. He's like, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but it always cracks me up. And it kind of makes affirmations seem a little bit corny, but the more and more research that we do on this, and it's now 2018, I think we understand that they actually do work. It's the study of neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP. The things that we tell ourselves really do have the power to change our thoughts and our feelings, and in the end, change our lives. So if you can take, I'm weak-minded, I have no willpower, and you can turn that around to instead saying, I'm doing my best every day, and really focusing on your victories instead of your failures, that's really going to help you. And realize that willpower is a limited resource. We do get tired at the end of the day. We do get fatigued. Sometimes it's really easy to stay on track, and other times it's not. But the more we can put these things on autopilot and really have them become sustainable habits to the point where we don't actually think about them, the more empowered we will become. So habit formation is really important. And so if you can catch yourself in that spiral or that loop, if you've got triggers, if you can recognize those triggers and then replace them with a different behavior in time, that different behavior, that different healthier behavior will become a new habit for you, a new healthier habit. So it's also good to really visualize how you want to be in the end. You know, that's another kind of out there technique to do the creative visualization or the mindset work, but it really works. You know, you have to get into a space. You might want to shut your eyes and really feel and envision how you would like to be at your goal, whether it's your goal weight or your goal physique or your goal habits. What is that really going to look like for you? And more importantly, what is that going to feel like? Because, you know, we've got all the vision boards and all that kind of stuff, but it's one thing to look at it and see it. But if you really want to manifest those changes, you have to really feel those things. And that is the energetic level that you need to actually have those changes come into being. And in the end, I just really want you guys to practice some self-love, because we are all human. None of us are perfect. And if we just realize that, and like I said before, show ourselves a little bit of grace, turn our self-talk around, really visualize what we want in the end, I think we're going to be so much better off. Now, I do have a link to some more tips for you guys, but I just want to throw those out there and kind of do a video. This one's already getting kind of long. I can do another one later. But just because you have a past habit of emotional eating does not mean that that is your future. You can make changes, and you can make them in a relatively short period of time. Start with one little habit and then build on that. Create a solid foundation as you go along. So I encourage you to start today down the path of a new, healthier life. And if you need any help, reach out to me. I'd be happy to bring you along in one of our groups or one of our journeys to better health. So thanks, everybody.